Hello guys and welcome to another video. My name's Mark, I'm an entrepreneur and property investor, and today we're going to be talking about why almost no one should be buying a new car. Probably PCP is the biggest culprit of any of this. And I'm going to go through the data and give you my perspective. It's going to be a bit of a rant, I'm afraid, because when I think about this, it does make me a little bit angry that people get hoodwinked into buying something they can't afford. So guys, give me a big like on this video if you don't mind. It is massively important information that it gets out to as many people as possible. And if you haven't already subscribed, why not consider subscribing? On this channel, we talk about all things finance, all things investing, entrepreneurial stuff, how to make sure you live the best life possible on your terms. But guys, let's get into the video. Let's talk about new cars and why it's such an area of contention for me. Now, the first thing I did was did a bit of research, and I can see that the average car finance in the UK is somewhere between £300 and £400 a month. And I thought about that in terms of what does that mean to people from their take-home pay? It's a huge amount of money. Now, when you consider that a Golf Basic, and I'll bring up an image of a Golf dealership that I looked at, they're saying that you need to put £3,500 down in order to get a £315 a month payment. You can kind of understand that this £350 a month figure, it's about right. A Golf is a pretty average car. I apologise if you own a Golf and you love it. It's a pretty average car though for the UK. It's a medium-sized hatchback and there's an average brand, average everything, right? So £315 a month just on the car payment. Add in insurance, add in fuel, servicing, maintenance, all the rest, it's close to £500, £600 a month. It's a huge amount of money. Now the next thing you need to do, once you know the expense, and we always talk about income and expenses, right? Is to look at the income side. Now the average car's probably owned by the average person, right? So the average salary in the UK, depending on where you look, 29, 31, it's 30k-ish for full-time employment. That is not the full story though, because out of your take-home pay, you've got to pay tax. And when you buy a car, you're paying with post-tax money. So your take-home pay on 30k, I went to this site up here, gives us our take-home pay, £24,000 a year, or a little bit over £2,000 a month. Now, we don't need to be geniuses to work out that £350 out of £2,000 a month is a huge percentage. Furthermore, we don't need to be geniuses to look at the Golf price of £23,600, I think it was, and £24,000 take home to work out that you're going to work for an entire year to buy a car that depreciates. It's such a terrible investment. Now, I get it. In the last year, if you bought a car and it went up in value, well done, you know, but that is a one-off. I sold my car recently. I sold it for more than I ever thought I'd be able to sell it for. I don't anticipate being able to do that ever again. I know that for the history of time, things with engines in them depreciate, and they generally depreciate by about 50% in the first 3 years, and then the rest of it goes at a slighter angle. For me, it just doesn't ever make sense for somebody to work for an entire year to pay for a depreciating asset. Now, what I would rather do, and what I have done in the past and what I continue to do, is I would take my take-home pay, and this is where the exception to that rule comes in. Take my take-home pay, that is going to go into investing. Property, index funds, all the sort of things that are going to generate income. Now, once that income becomes equal to or greater than the expense that I want to take on, then it becomes an option for me. So the way that I've always lived my life is that my passive income has to pay for my lifestyle. And if you look at the last 5 years or 6 years, I've adopted my lifestyle up and down, depending on where I am in that space, depending on how much passive income I have or what my expenses are at that point in time. And I've been very fluid with that process because it's a rule, a life rule for me. It allows me to sleep well at night knowing that my expenses are always going to be paid for by my passive income. I cannot imagine being in a position where I would sign an agreement that my income, the entire year of it, would be paid for a car. It just seems like madness to me. And I mean no offense to anybody who's got themselves into this position. I really don't. But hopefully I can help you see that there's a better way of doing this. You take your income, you put it into assets. You use those assets to pay for your lifestyle. There really is only one extra step. It's buying things that will pay for the things that you want, rather than just buying the things you want. And it doesn't take that long for the snowball to take effect and for you to be able able to afford these sort of things. But a brand new car on PCP, this is just the manufacturers and the dealers and the finance companies' way of extracting your money from you and making their margin. They make it look so affordable, only £315 a month, only! Like, that's a huge amount of money to most people. Only £315 a month. That is more than 10% of your take home. So if we were looking at some rules, I mean, I don't know what my rules would be, but I definitely wouldn't be able to spend an entire year's salary on a car. Maybe 30% is reasonable, and then you're looking at knocking that down by 70%, knocking the car value down by 70%. Maybe that's a more reasonable ratio. But a whole year's salary on a car that's going to depreciate like a stone? Now, I appreciate also that this isn't the whole story, right? When it comes to cars, there's safety, there's fuel economy, there's all these other things that come into it. I appreciate that. But once all of that comes out in the wash, I still don't think that you can justify or should justify buying a new car with a year's salary if you're an average person. I just don't think you should. I think the much more savvy move is to buy a much cheaper car, probably for cash, you know, £3,000-4,000, put as much of this away as you possibly can into index funds, into property. I mean, what do you need? One buy-to-let to pay for that? 100 grand house? That's about it, and the entire margin is going to be there. So if you took your entire salary that you were willing to pay for a car and used it instead to pay for a house, you would then be able to buy that in perpetuity for the rest of your life, and the tenant would pay for it. So one property is all you need. I mean, you've got one HMO, 150 to 200 grand, that's going to bring you in about £1,000 a month. You can have 3 of them. But you really are only one step away from being able to do that for the rest of your life. And it's that delayed gratification that people struggle with. Personally, even I struggle with it sometimes, and I'm a big protagonist for it. I really do. I look at these nice shiny objects, I get drawn in. It's easy to happen. But then I think to myself, it's got to be paid from the passive income. And once I put that rule in place, and I knew that it was an immovable rule, you're not allowed to change it, I knew that I couldn't afford things that I thought that I probably could. And that has led me to be able to grow my wealth exponentially over the last 5 to 10 years. Prior to that, when I was using my money, my salary, the money that I'd earned, the income, to buy things that I wanted, my wealth didn't grow that quickly. But once I made that mindset shift, I'm now probably investing 100% of everything that I earn into things that will pay passive income. And my passive income massively outweighs the amount of money that I spend on my lifestyle at the moment. So I'm in a very enviable position, I believe, but it's taken me a lot of sacrifice and a lot of time to get there. And I always say this, I think everybody's only 5 to 10 years away from living the lifestyle that they want for the rest of their life in perpetuity. But it is 5 to 10 years. There's no secret pill, there's no magic formula I can give you. It's just buy assets that will pay for the lifestyle that you want. And that will give you security over that lifestyle for the long run. So guys, I hope you've enjoyed this video. I know it's been a bit of a rant, it's been on my mind, I wanted to put it down for you. And guys, I will see you on the next one. Give it a big like, subscribe if you haven't already. Cheers guys.